Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We just needed some time to do a little technical break here up on stage after the performance of the musicians. But can we start by an extra warm applause for the musicians Camilla Susanne Haug and Amit Nadir and band for so beautifully capturing the spirit of this Indo-Norwegian summit, like a musical dessert for us. We are ready for part 2, which is called Groundbreaking Projects for Scaling the Hydrogen Value Chains. We will present 3 cases, starting with Vegard Frihammer, the CEO of Greenstat. As we've heard mentioned before, 2030 is not far away. It's actually only 7 climate summits like this away. And for Vegard Frihammer, it's not just a date, it's a deadline, in fact. We need to go from startups to scale-ups in record time. So Mr. Frihammer will present how he will re-establish large-scale hydrogen production in Norway. Give him a warm welcome.
There we go. See, yeah, you can hear me, even though it's not as high as me. Yes, I will talk about how we will re-establish large-scale hydrogen production in Norway. And the reason why we say re-establish is that we used to have large-scale electrolyzer plants many places in Norway. This picture is from Glomfjord, that I will mention more about later. It was one of the world's largest hydrogen production facilities in the period from 1949 until 1993. It was a 135 megawatt installation producing 65 tons of hydrogen per day. And we would really like to go back to establishing these kinds of plants all over Norway. The reason why this plant was shut down was due to competition. And we have talked about a lot about competitive pricing today. In the late 80s and start of 90s, then natural gas became available in abundance. And it was possible to produce sort of grey hydrogen at a low price, and then green hydrogen was pushed out of the market. Now we see a change in the market. We need to do the reverse. But to do that, we need to compete. We have talked a lot about partnerships today, and we do need to partner. We have to collaborate, but we also need a friendly competition. Because if we do not compete, we will not be competitive. So this is the simple value chain that we see today for green hydrogen. We've talked about this earlier, so you know it well. We have renewable energy available. We have ready technology. We do not need to have any breakthrough technologies. It's just about scaling up and reducing the cost. What we need is to set up a robust infrastructure for production, and we need to scale up the deployment of the market side. And that's why it's so sort of promising that the Norwegian government finally, we have to say that, we've been working with hydrogen for a while, and finally this summer, or it started actually last summer, they now have a scheme where they have made the Norwegian industry compete. I see that the map color disappeared on this slide, but you can imagine the Norwegian map here. So, and the way that Enova structured sort of this funding round is, for me, the way to go forward. And that's why we want to sort of talk about that. So maybe this is something that could be done in India as well. Because last summer, they launched a competition for 15 pre-project or feasibility studies, where groups got together and they made the best sort of projects in their region, handed in applications, and then 15 out of 29 applications were awarded 1 million Norwegian krona, 100,000 US dollars. And that makes just that small amount of money creates enormous momentum, because the industry is ready, but they can't work for free, so they need a little bit. So then from those 15 pre-projects, this summer in June, and you heard our Minister of Trade, Jan Christian Vestre, mention that they now awarded 100 million US dollars in a funding scheme where they gave funds both for hydrogen production and to technology to the user side. And 5 of those 15 pre-projects won a contract. That means that we have qualified the best possible projects in Norway. And as you can see, they are spread across the coastline, which makes it possible to have a robust infrastructure and for the ship owners, and also the land transport to, it's not me, to know that they have available hydrogen. And I will go through 3 of these, because at Greenstat we were lucky enough to be heavily involved in 3, and thank you. And it's also sort of the way that we would like to work. We now own between 20 and 49% of 3 projects instead of owning 1 alone, and that gives a lot better feeling. So one of the projects is in Glomfjord, and you saw the picture at the first slide where they had the 135 megawatt installation. This is a perfect site for setting up hydrogen production. The sort of city council, they know hydrogen from before. They know the safety aspects of it, so it's very easy to convince people that hydrogen is also the fuel for the future. And now we are working towards the customer side. We have a lot of contract negotiations, and we see an enormous interest in buying hydrogen from the plant. And it will be produced and then compressed and trucked away on trucks. We have another one all the way south in Agder, where we have been working with established companies as well. And here we see that the biggest market in this region is the cruise liners. So we have a strong connection from Kristiansand to Denmark and Holland, or Netherlands. And one of the cruise liners that we are hopefully will be supplying hydrogen is this from Holland Norway Lines. And the last project is in the middle of Norway. It's a hydrogen hub in Rørvik. This is one of the most trafficked hubs in Norway. It's more than 35,000 ships passing every year. So it's a perfect hub for a hydrogen setup. And there are also lots of aquaculture installations nearby. So in sum, these funds that Enova has provided will hopefully, now we have to prove, now the race is on, we have to prove, we have to get the funding. So within 1 year we have to make the investment decision, and then Norway will have its robust infrastructure in place. So that was it for me. Thank you so much.
And we are excited to follow the progress. The next speaker needs no introduction, simply because he was on stage right before lunch break. Now, Mr. Steffen Møller-Holst from SINTEF will present large-scale hydrogen production across Europe. So give him a warm welcome again.
Thank you. So I'll talk on how Europe is realizing large-scale hydrogen production And let me just sketch this. You had a much nicer sketch, Vega, but the distinguishing between the fossil and the renewables, kind of how we do this. We have the various distribution technologies. We need to compress, we need to liquefy, we need potentially also to convert these the hydrogen to hydrogen carriers to get all the applications and covering all the end uses we need to cover in the future. But I'll focus now on how the green hydrogen will be utilized in industry and show you a couple of examples from what we do in Europe. But the need to scale up was already 5 years ago announced by the Hydrogen Council in the report to the right here. There are multiple scenarios showing various increases, I would say. All of them show increases to the demand for hydrogen in the near future. Industry is dominating all of these scenarios. As you can see, it's a brown-colored piece of those columns. And if you look at the ICS, the ECT scenario, it's evident that steel was mentioned already, chemicals is one large area, fuels is another one, and my presentation will show you an example where we go into a refinery and try to reduce the emissions from that kind of activity. But on the way, I'll just mention that just last week we were gathered at Tyssedal, where Tysser is now planning and in the process of replacing coal as a reducing agent and with hydrogen to fully and eventually also decarbonize the titanium production there. Another example, I see the map is already or almost gone here as well, Vega, but in Mo i Rana, it's in the middle of Norway. You see the Celsa and Statkraft has also gathered forces to try to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions from steel production. But if you look at the trends, there are two trends here. One is that the size of each of these electrolyzer plants are increasing dramatically from 1 to 10 megawatt. Now we're talking about hundreds of megawatts. The other one is that the number of projects is increasing. So in total, we're talking about a huge capacity in the pipeline for investments. 11 gigawatts in Europe alone by 2026. And if you say that electrolyzer technology would cut the cost by half, still that market is a 50 billion euro market per year. Looking at the Nel, which was mentioned, the Nel company which was mentioned this morning, still the world's largest electrolyzer company. If you compare their income from 2020 to the potential in 2030, only having 10% of the global market, it will be 100-fold increase in their turnover. In this area, and over the last decade, SINTEF has engaged and been a partner within the Fuel Cells and Hydrogen Joint Undertaking Program in Europe in 30 projects. And we have, in the area of PEM electrolyzers, gone all the way from materials development through upscaling activity all the way to market deployment, as you can see to the right here. We were lucky to spin off a company which will be presenting later on in the technology session today, HyStar. And last but not least, we were recently lucky to get funding for the large next step to increase from 10 to 100 megawatts of electrolyzer capacity. As you can see here, more than 300 million euros in funding. The total budget is around 1 billion krona. This is situated at Shell's Energy and Chemicals Park in Cologne. It produces up to 40 tons of hydrogen a day, and it's been used for, it will be used for the refinery operations as such, and also as a fuel to reduce emissions. In this second iteration of this REFINE project, we will also utilize the oxygen and the heat from this. So we are looking at a circular kind of economy in this respect. The plant that we already have in operation is a 10 megawatt plant, which was delivered by the British supplier ITM Power. It is already used to balance the internal use of energy. This is limited. This is given by, or the need for that is given by the window in which Shell has to operate between 60 and 100 megawatt. And if they are outside that power window, they need to pay significant penalties. So this is adding to the economics of that already for the 10 megawatt plant. It's also being planned now to be used for the external grid balancing as they step up from 10 to 100 megawatts. In this case, we are also talking about increasing, building a new power line, 100 megawatt power line into the refinery as such. And to be able to do these extra services, the grid balancing services, you need the entire system to be dynamic, not only the stack, but also the balance of plant. You need the pre-processing as well as even the end use to follow, and the storage to be in place. So what does this consist of? It consists of the 10 megawatt plant consists of 2 megawatts modules, each of them or put together 5 in a 10 megawatt system, as you see here. The balance of plant is added to this, the power supply, the gas treatment, and altogether you need to then, of course, connect this to the grid, where you need to consider the entire consumer integration. And in the future, when we're talking about hundreds of megawatts of installations, we're talking about 25, 30 kilotons of hydrogen a year, and this will become large, huge chemical plants in these areas, like the one we saw in your slide, more than 100 megawatts already way back in Glomfjord. So what are the learnings from these, both the construction and operation of the 10 megawatt plant, and now the engineering of the new one, the 10 times larger 100 megawatt plant? What is interesting is that we now see how the mature industry is meeting the relatively new technologies involved here. It's very important to see how, to understand how the established standards for industrial size have to be complemented by, in this case, sometimes few standards or no standards at all for the new technologies being incorporated here. We see at the same time large companies meeting small and medium-sized enterprises. We have many actors involved, and additionally to the technical competence, we need to also address the legal, the permitting, industrial procurement, and of course financing. So our benefit from coordinating this large activity is, of course, that we especially see the value of the large industry's experience of handling huge and complex projects, and not least their long tradition in handling safety aspects. So we are developing the business models. We are assessing how the total economy can be profitable when these come up and in operation. So thank you for your understanding. I have to thank the financing, of course, the EU here. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And it's exciting to hear what we can learn from projects actually coming alive. As some of you may know, Norway has been leading the way on electric ferries, but the ferry we're going to talk about now is run by hydrogen. It's Norway's first hydrogen ferry, and to present the case is Lars Jakob Engelsen, who is the COO of Norled. Give him a warm welcome.
Okay, can you hear me? Your Excellencies, honored guests, this is it. This is MF Hydra, which will be the first large-scale car ferry to run on hydrogen. Definitely in Norway, as it says, but possibly also in the world. This is the ship of the year, 2021. And how do I go to the next page? Ta-da. I will start by saying that this is not something that might possibly, maybe happen in the future. This is a ship that is actually built. It has been tested on the very crossing which will operate. And right now, it is at the yard, the Norwegian yard Westcon in Ølen, where it will be converted to hydrogen. And by the end of this year, or the latest early next year, it will be put into operation based on hydrogen. So it's happening, and it's happening now. And this is very much what we do. We are a almost 170-year-old company. We were actually innovation-driven already from the start. We started out as a steam engine company 2 generations before the sailing ships reached their peak. And we have been innovation-driven ever since. So what we do day to day is we operate vital infrastructure, ferry crossings, expressboat crossings, all around the Norwegian coastline. High regularity, high safety standard, low costs. But what really makes us stand out and where we extract our identity, that's from innovation. And to put hydrogen in a broader picture, this is what we are doing, this is what we have done. Starting on the left side, we actually, in collaboration with the national road authorities in Norway and with an absolutely fabulous maritime cluster in Norway, put into operation the first electrical ferry in the world, the MF Ampere, in 2015. And in a way, the rest is history. It has now been followed by 80 siblings, cutting emissions in this industry by 85% by 2030. And in a way, it's hard to point at any other industry in any country on the planet which has seen such a swift transition from something very grey to something very green. And now, moving to the left side, we really believed that also in express boats, hydrogen would be the solution. Now, we tend to believe that there will be another solution, and that will be battery swap, something we call shifter, a robotic solution which very swift replace the battery within existing routes. And that leaves us with the long-distance ferry crossings, and that is where hydrogen comes in. And what we do with MF Hydra is first we complete the process of moving the entire ferry and express boat sector in Norway from grey to totally green. That's in part the importance of this project. But in addition, by the way, this is the ferry. This is an actual picture on the ferry on the actual crossing. So it is an actual ferry. Okay. I would like to be totally honest with you. Building and operating and putting into operation the electric ferry Ampere, that was complex. This is even much more complex. It's a really complex project. So, there's a lot of experience in producing hydrogen, but there is a lot of work to be done when it comes to application. And the importance of MF Hydra is simply that by building and putting this ferry into operation, we solve a lot of problems that needs to be solved. we find a lot of solutions that is necessary, not only to fix the Norwegian ferry sector, but also to fix short-range and mid-range shipping. That's the importance of the project. And, for instance, when it comes to bunkering, that might seem easy, but it's really complex, because liquid hydrogen has to be bunkered at very low temperature. This is complex. And further, doing all of this, and also fixing the regulation side, we paved the way for hydrogenization of shipping. That will create a demand side for the infrastructure that was just addressed, and also by doing that, create a platform for an increase in volume that will bring prices down. And by bringing the prices down, next we open a wider array of uses for hydrogen. So, in conclusion, in a time where, needless to say, other issues are diverting attention from the climate question, our ambition is to deliver results that are tangible, measurable, and massive. And by doing that, we hope to bring attention back to the climate issue. And we hope to bring hope. And hope beyond our particular industry, but a broader picture of hope. And that, and nothing less, has been and will be the project in Nordland. And this is why MF Ampere is so important. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is very exciting to hear about real projects, and hopefully there are much more to come. In the inaugural session, you might remember Minister Vestre, the slight, energetic young minister of trade and industry. He talked about the Norwegian hydrogen strategy. And here to give us some more details is Elisabeth Sæther. She is the State Secretary of the Norwegian Ministry of Petroleum. So give us her a warm welcome, and welcome her on stage.
Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to see you here today. I would like to start by greeting our friends from India. It's truly impressive to see the size of your delegation traveling all the way here to Norway to meet with your Norwegian colleagues. I hope that your stay here in Norway will be valuable and fruitful. It is also encouraging that Norway and India can cooperate on the energy transition. Today's topic is hydrogen. With the launch of the National Hydrogen Mission, India has made your great ambitions quite clear. Already, Norway and Indian companies have started cooperation in development of hydrogen. I believe that this will continue and develop further. I am pleased to give some perspective on the Norwegian government's energy policy. While our common efforts on the transition towards clean energy will be continuing at full speed, attention also needs to be put firmly on energy security. However, securing access to affordable energy is not the only challenge we are facing. On the top of this, we must meet the energy demand within the framework of our climate goals and environmental sustainability, as the UN Climate Panel latest report reminded us. The urgency is now greater than before. I strongly believe we can meet the challenges and that they will provide new opportunities. Cutting emissions and helping others to cut theirs is also about creating new jobs, activity and opportunities in the national and international markets. As a significant energy nation, both in terms of technology, petroleum and renewable, Norway has many advantages as the world strives to secure enough energy while reaching our common climate goals. Achieving those goals is what our policy aims for. However, policy alone is not enough. We also need the private sector and cooperation across borders. Let me then turn to the main topic today, hydrogen. And I will start by noticing that we all know to reach the goal of the Paris Agreement, hydrogen and hydrogen carriers, such as ammonia, could be crucial. In some hard-to-abate sector, hydrogen can provide a solution for deep emission reductions. Hydrogen provides an option both to reduce emission and diversify the energy mix. However, we should also keep in mind that energy needs to be produced with low emissions. The ambition of the Norwegian government is clear. We will continue to contribute to the development of hydrogen as an efficient energy carrier to meet the long-term climate targets. Realizing a market for hydrogen in Europe requires overcoming a range of barriers. There is a need for developing new technology, for new application areas, reducing cost, increasing energy efficiency, developing regulations and standards, infrastructure, and commercial arrangements that allow for long-term investments. The Norwegian government firmly believes in developing a coherent value chain for hydrogen where production, distribution, and usage are developed in parallel. We believe governments should take a technology-neutral approach. What matters should be that we produce enough volumes of hydrogen with low to zero emissions at the lowest possible cost. We believe this is best secured by competitive energy markets with efficient pricing of greenhouse gas emissions. Generally speaking, Norwegian is well positioned for taking a part in the green and blue hydrogen value chain. Our electricity mix is almost 100% renewable. We still have reserves of natural gas. The industry is working on discovering more, and we have a suitable location for safe storage of CO2 offshore. To get momentum and scale and develop a market and infrastructure, blue hydrogen is a realistic alternative in Europe in the short and medium term. In the longer term, production of hydrogen could be coupled with production of renewable power from offshore wind power from Norway. The government has announced an ambition to open for 30 gigawatts offshore wind in Norway within 2040. The Norwegian government has an ambition to contribute of production of hydrogen with zero or low emissions to meet the domestic demand. In addition, the government will also enable economically viable export-oriented hydrogen value chain if a market develops. Blue hydrogen based on Norwegian natural gas resources could take place both in Norway or elsewhere with CO2 storage. One of the main barriers of creating a hydrogen market today is the lack of just that, a market. Production of hydrogen should not just come as a consequence of government push. On the contrary, it should be driven on the demand from commercial customers. The Norwegian government will contribute to development of a hydrogen market, but this is certainly also in the hands of consuming countries. The Norwegian government has a broad range of measures to support the development of a hydrogen market. Most importantly, we have price on CO2 emissions through the CO2 tax and participation in the EU ETS, which increase incentive to develop cleaner technologies. The government supports R&D projects and effort to support demonstration, pilot and development projects. Just the last year, one of our main measures, Enova, has granted more than 200 million euros to hydrogen-related projects. The funding of hydrogen-related projects has increased throughout the past years in Norway and have resulted in increased investment from the private sector. The government also uses requirements in public procurement as a tool to stimulate technology development in hydrogen. To summarize, the Norwegian government has great ambitions for the development of hydrogen. Nonetheless, we are to reach our common goals in the Paris Agreement. At the same time, we have to secure the energy supply, which will need closer international collaboration. This forum provides for an excellent starting point. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Special gift for you from the host of the session. So, ladies and gentlemen, Now we are going to have a break, and in that break, you are going to move into the rooms of the parallel sessions. And you have a choice of a total of 5 different parallel sessions, moderated by 5 different moderators. And to guide you the way, Dr. Gupta, please do not leave, because I'm going to present you as a moderator. Yes? Good. We need you here. Because I want you to, when I call your name, I want you to stand up so everyone can see your face and hopefully end up in the right room for the right panel, for the right session. So session A, it's going to be in here. It's about investments, and it's going to be moderated by Mr. Rainish Kumar from Bharat P. Can you please stand up? Are you here? He will come later, but that's the easy one, because it's right here. Yes. So for investments, you stay here. And session B is technology, and it's going to be all the way diagonally all across the hall to the hall or the room furthest away. And it's going to be moderated by Mr. Daniel Rasvidal from Kjeller Innovation. And there you can see Daniel and follow him all the way to Hall B. Yes? And then, following clockwise, session C is safety. It will be hosted by you, Dr. J.P. Gupta. Yes? He stood up earlier. Yes, now you see Dr. Gupta, and they will be the room next to B. And session D is, of course, D for decarbonization. It's going to be hosted by Dr. Karen Landmark from Greenstat. And you will be in room number D, which is the one straight across the hall from here. And then it's a little tricky one in the end, session E for end user, the market that Elisabeth was talking about. It's going to be 1 floor up. And it's going to be hosted by Mrs. Rina Sunder from the Modern India. She also saw this. And the panel starts at 2:10. And so you have a little break, and there will be a little break, and there will be a gathering for a final panel conversation here at 4:30. So we'll all see you back here at 4:30. Thank you.